Hello everyone, welcome to my videos. Myself Ashwin Nayak. From today, let we start ninth standard social science. In the history part, chapter 7, the Europe in the Middle Age. So in this chapter, we have to consider about the main objectives are, look here. Okay, that first one, the conditions in the Europe during the Middle Age and then meaning of this federal system, the different forms of this federal system, and then advantage and disadvantage of this federal system, at the last one the decline of federal system. So entirely after that, during to the middle age, how did the people has to live are affected to the federal system. Okay, let's start that the one by one. So at its starting, the decline of Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire was still the 395 BC. So broke into the two part. So the West Roman Empire was in the existence from this the 395 to the 476 BC till the fall of the Romulism Augustus. The Eastern Roman Empire was in the power from this the 395 BC to the 1453 BC. So it is to be called the Byzantine Empire. The medieval Europe begins with the fall of Western Roman Empire. The medieval Europe to the ends with the captures of this the Constantinople by the Turks in the 1453 C. At that earlier age, the entire at the earlier age, the entire medieval period it is to be called to the dark age of Europe because the medieval period divided into the three. The begins, medieval, at the end. So in this three type, the medieval period is to be divided. So after that division, the beginning stage of medieval period, it is to call it a dark age. Got it? The Roman Empire under the control of this. So why the beginning stage it is to be called a dark age? Okay, look at the reasons for this. The Roman Empire was under the control by the landlord called patricians, and then the consolidated all the political power is the same of that is the Senate. The poor and Roman were called to the plebeian and they had their no political rights. They were the slaves. So the patrician and then senates, it is to ruling over the Roman Empire. The poor people of the Rome, it is to be the plebeian, they had to the political rules in there. It is to for this the slaves. The slave's owner had to be made the slave their private properties. They were the robbing their benefits of the slaves and the hard work. So even slaves have the private property as a slaves owners them. They had to the work under the constant threat of this punishment and the field of art, architecture, culture, and then philosophy were the result of works of slave. So since the slaves was doing all the works, the owner had the free time to the in the creative for this the work. 1,000-year barrenness appeared in Europe after the rich culture contributions by the Greek and Roman peoples. This period it is to be called the Dark Age. So this period was the transitions with the rise of barbaric races, and then federal was the born. Okay, in the next concept, the feudalism. ಸೊ ಫೆಡಲಿಸಮ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಉಳಿಗಮಾನ್ಯ ಪದ್ಧತಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ನಾವು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಕರಿತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೇವೆ. ಸೊ ಈಗ ಲೆಟ್ ವಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ದ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಹೌ ಡಿಡ್ ದಟ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಈ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ದಿಸ್ ರೋಮನ್ ಎಂಪೈರ್ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗೋಣ. So after the fall of this Roman, so after the dark age, that will be the Roman age, it is to be fall down now. The political and social systems of these many European countries plugged into the chores. Such a critical period, a new political and economic system took it to birth the Western Europe. So this was the feudal system. The farmer that cultivating the cultivable land for made the part of feudalism. So these were the getting in right result to this handworks, the white playing to the annual rent, the feudal wards were displaying their power the unnecessarily. So this is the feudalism. The feudal system was a system of this land ownership based on political and economical basis in the medieval Europe. The status of this person was based on extended land owned by them, by him. The income from the land was the sole means to the earning. The land granted in the beginning century of this feudalism were from the life with the full entertainment. By this 8th century, the king started returning to the ownership with him and granted only the rights to the cultivate land and the nobleness of the vessels. In the 9th century, the grants became the hereditary, the most of this church that became a part of the feudalism. The feudatory king who reviewed the grant of this land from the kings further granted the lands to their subordinate. The bonded farms were the black backbone of the entire economy. So this is the system of the feudal system. And then next we have to go there. The nature and the forms of feudalism, the oath and then loyalty. The land had by the vassals was considered a gift given by the ruler and consisted into the two important tradition. The first one was investiture. Under the tradition, the Lord gave agents of this justice and protections to the vassal while giving the land. And then second one, the homage. Homage. So it is to the under this tradition, the vassal promised the loyalty and service to the feudal, the lands. And hierarchies among the feudal lords, and then importance to the ducos, eros, and barons, and knights, etc. So these are all were the important among the feudal lords. The vassals took to the help the labors for this agriculture, were given the land sufficient for surviving all long as they worked with the vassals. They were not given by the monastery to the returns. And then the independent farmer had a small proportions and the land were playing rent for this the land the used. And the others had to the work the small granted lands to out their living as well as to the free of cost in the federal owners to the land. So these are all were to the nature and the forms of this the feudalism. And then next we have to see that is the effect of feudal system. Look at that. At the first one, the soldiers were the forms of this ruling classes is that they had absolute control over this military. The both political and economic powers were constructed in the one place. And then justice system, so this justice system of this village they were honored in the house of this the federal order. It is to be the manual system also included. And then next the military human power, it is to federal land the lord of this depend on that the vessels to the human power. The exploitations of these classes, this is the restricted in this the areas. So there were the visible changes in the economic systems, economic system. The power of the barbarian was the brought under the control. The system to the encourage to the creative output in there, the literature and the England. The England, France and Germany. So this is the encourage to create output of this literature. The noblemen not trained in these roles. With this, the noblemen, the women and the weaker people became the protectors to the Christianity. A new businessman associations came into the existence by the 14th century. The numerous poor farmers were pushed away from this the agriculture. As this result, the system prominent the ruling classes for this the emerged. Though many became to the traitors of their own countries had become to the threat to their own religious unity. Judicial systems also suffered from this the lack of uniformity and then took a place between to the church and the states was to the moreover to the clashes is there. And then next we have to see there that is the declines of this the federal system. So how did that federal system it is to be decline? The disease that engulfed the group during the 14th century killed over the 3.5 crore of these people or one third of this population were the pushed to the death. So this is called the black death in the history. Okay, the black death. So in this federal system, it is to be declined for this. This is the main reason. So that is the black death. At the 14th century, at that period, the 3.5 crore people were punished to the death. So this is the called as the black death in the history. With the recurrence of these plagues, Periodically, the situation became the more serves. So this result in the loss of agricultural production, income becomes the less, and the demand for this food grain also went down affection into the agriculture. The absence of able bodies, the people made by the farmer strong in order to the formal strong, and then in order to the counter arrested of this farmer, the federal lords and trainer to the impose the more and more tradition during on this the farmer. So at the social unrest of this result, the revolts became the common across Europe. The decline of feudalism led way to the emergency of capitalism in the Europe. So these types of this, the feudal system, it is to be the decline. So in this chapter, it is the main question antandre. So what is feudal system? And then what was the effect of this feudal system? And then after that, in your examination purpose, it is to be says on this 1 or 2 marks. So what were the reason to decline on this feudal system? So these three questions, it is to the main points or the main importance of these questions for your examination purposes. Okay, at that first one, it is the what is feudal system? So feudal system ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ so in this chapter, the feudal system and then dark age. So at that the medieval period, in the beginning stage, it is to be called for this dark age. So it is after that. So after the Roman Empire, the under the control of this landlords called the patrician senates, and then the plebeian, they had to that political rights. So these were all the slaves. So the dark age, it is to be one of that important after that feudal system. And then the nature and the forms of this feudal system. So after that effect to the feudal system. So what was the effects to that feudal system? So what was the effect of this feudal system? The feudal landlords had to the expanded on the vessels for this military human, and then vessels of this military human power. This restricted the exploitations of these classes. There were the visible changes in the economic system. The power of barbarian were the brought under their control. So this is the effect to the feudal system. Thank you for this watching these videos.